Do you believe Frank Warren and Tyson Fury are waiting for Oleksandr Usyk to slip before they take the fight?
No, I just think that they know how difficult the fight is. Frank Warren does as he's told. Same with me, with AJ. Ultimately, they will make the final decision. Fury knows how good Usyk is and wants a certain amount of money to risk his record against Usyk. And if that money's not there, he will not fight him.
This is Fight Club. Come on in.
Welcome to Fight Club. I'm Gareth A Davies via Boxing Social. It's episode 10, and I have the big man in the studio with me this week, the one and only Eddie Hearn. Don't miss this. Well, a very warm welcome to Edward John Hearn, 44 years old, 2.4 million subscribers or fans on social media, chairman of Matchroom Sport, son of the great Barry Hearn, OBE, founder of Matchroom Sport. But you're more renowned, really, mostly renowned, Eddie, as a boxing promoter. Huge ego and a thick skin needed?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I apologise for my attire today. You know, I came straight from the gym. I turned up. You're looking, you know, sartorially elegant as always, Gareth. Yeah, I think, I don't know, you change a lot. You know, I learn more about life now every day than I probably did between the age of 20 and 40, in all honesty. You know, I think life evolves. In terms of thick skin, in terms of ego, I like to win. That's really the only thing, you know, that the ego. I'm probably not as confident and not as sure of myself always as I appear. I think from the outside, I look like I'm just, you know, think I'm God's gift and my ego's out of control. And I do rate myself, but I do question myself, and I do question the product sometimes. I never leave a show feeling fully fulfilled. But thick skin, yeah. I mean, that's the key. And I think when you look at the great survivors of the industry, that's one of the biggest attributes. You know, Warren, Arum, those kind of guys. Skin like a rhinoceros.
But driven.
Driven.
Maradona, Madonna, Messi, Ronaldo, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, they're all driven people, whether they like it or not. And you probably don't overthink it either. No,
I think sacrifices, you know, I think that's key. But you, to be at the top of your game in sport or business, you have to make huge sacrifices. But if you love what you do, they don't actually appear to be the biggest sacrifices in the world, you know? Some people say to me, mate, you know, you need to slow down. Oh, you can't do this forever. Going here, America there, Mexico, Australia, Spain, but honestly doesn't feel taxing on me. Every now and again I feel tired, but what a buzz. I mean, I'm so lucky and blessed to be doing what I'm doing, and I love boxing. I've loved it since I was 8 years old, and I think sometimes now I try and do a lot more kind of internal cleansing, and I do that via helping out more with the community stuff. Like, I get a tremendous feel for doing that stuff. I mean, my own daughter goes to Brentwood Amateur Boxing Club. Probably, and she's
they play cricket as well.
Yeah, my eldest, but probably
going to play for England, isn't she?
Hopefully, if she gets off her phone. But probably that gives me more enjoyment. When we went to Limehouse Boxing Club last week, we're doing a lot of community stuff. I love it. I love to see kids just participating in sport, because I'm such a huge believer in what it can teach them, more than anything. You know, especially in today's modern world, they're always, get them off their phone, get them enjoying sport, get them competing, get them being fit physically, mentally. And of course, when you talk about boxing, respect, manners, discipline. all the things that's lacking in today's society.
I think one of the things is just staying on this subject of young people, and I think having heard your story about how you went to private school, and I have a very similar story in a way that sport kept me in private school because I was a wrong 'un in lots of ways, a miscreant. But at a young age, music, drama, art, theatre, sport is what keeps the people from the neuro tribe that I believe we're from, which is, and you're beginning to analyse this at the age of 44, past your 40s, your life force is something you can never change. You have a very powerful life force, but in the end, your body will tell you that you can't keep going as you are, burning the candle at four ends. And on that very subject, I mean, you're in this attire today because you've been doing a hard workout before you came here. It's part of your men's health fitness thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, men's health, like you, has an extraordinary large following. It's a massive community. What made you want to get fit now, and do you want to have the abs that Dana White's got?
Yeah, I mean, Dana's in some shape, isn't he? But it's not really aesthetically. Yeah, I think you always want to look good, don't you?
Come on, you go to the Caribbean a lot. You want to get that shirt
I
off.
wish I
Do you
could
get your shirt off?
Yeah, of course. But
When Anthony Joshua gets his shirt off, do you put yours back on?
You're joking, yeah.
He's one of those, isn't he?
Yeah. But it's more about, look, I want to look, I like to try and look good in a pair of shorts or with my clothes on. I just want to feel.
No, you've got the legs.
Yeah.
You've got the legs.
Good legs.
But you've got great legs. You're a great runner, of course. And you were a great cricketer. You probably could have played professional cricket, but it's the getting the shirt off moment in the Caribbean when you can stroll down the beach and be Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, that would be nice. But it's more like probably about a year and a half ago, once we started this real extreme global expansion, the problem is everybody wants blood. And I'm talking about the media, but more so the paymasters, your broadcasters, in this case, DAZN. So I can't afford to not be at a show, because it just doesn't look right. If I don't go to one show, it's a representation that show is actually not of
as
the
big as the others,
as the others. And I like to be at the shows. I love to watch the development of our young fighters. I love to watch the main event. And it just got to a stage where I was putting on weight. I wasn't sleeping well.
Why was that?
Because of the lifestyle. You know, I've never been a drinker, but I was I'd be out for dinner every night on fight week. Next thing, it's 3 or 4 glasses of wines, a couple of gin and tonics. Maybe. I mean, the Conor Benn stuff, but the Conor Benn stuff came after when I got in better shape, and I truly believe that I was able to handle that so much better.
That's a very interesting point about being in shape and handling stress.
But that's one of the
and
reasons
the problems in your life.
That's one of the reasons that I did it, because I knew that if I was fitter and if I was healthier, I would be able to work harder for longer and handle those kind of situations.
Decisions
better.
Are clearer.
Everything's clearer. I stopped drinking, and from there my sleep improved. I train 4 or 5 times a week. It's an uphill battle, always has been. Now, I've been probably overweight since I was 15, really. Never like terribly, but always a battle.
What's your BMI index then? Are you actually called obese in that? Because it's ridiculous. In the BMI index, you probably ought to be 14 stone.
Yeah, no less. I think it was like 13.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? But so if you can get to like 15.
Yeah, I want to get to 15% body fat.
Right, okay.
Which is a long way to go.
And where are you at the moment?
Probably like 22, 23.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's okay. But I just like the stuff like Men's Health and like the book that I wrote, all that kind of stuff is just.
Did you write it yourself?
With a ghostwriter.
Right.
So, we wrote it over COVID, but all that kind of stuff, Gareth, it's like, I like pushing the boundaries. And if you'd have told me when I was at school or when I was growing up that I would have a book that was a Sunday Times bestseller, I'd laugh. My teachers would laugh. If you tell me that I'd be a men's health columnist and doing a cover shoot in my shorts, everyone would laugh. And
your own BBC podcast you had?
Yeah, same.
And have at
I
times?
Just like I like doing different things, pushing myself and seeing where I could go. We're in talks about loads of different TV formats at the moment for major networks and stuff like that. And I just, I kind of feel like because of the work that I've done on my own profile, and that was very deliberate, because you look at the major organisations like UFC, Dana White, WWE, Vince McMahon. I looked at boxing and thought, of course, the fighters always take priority, but I need to build my profile. So we're not always talent dependent. Boxing needs a voice within our business.
Don King did that first.
Yeah, but
didn't he?
Yeah,
he made himself as big as his own fighters.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as a criticism, but they're there. You have a synergy with your fighters, but when they're gone, you need to propel the next person
also
up.
they'll benefit off
Yeah,
my
exactly.
profile. You know, and when we left Sky to go to DAZN, we're playing catch up in terms of the broadcast profile, but I had built a following, and Matchroom had built a following.
Was that deliberate or was that organic?
No, it was very deliberate. Not
Because the UFC did it with Dana White, and they made him as big as
we were
everyone.
going to move in that direction, but we just felt that if my brand, the Matchroom's brand, became powerful globally. So, for instance, when we go to Mexico, or we go to Australia or Italy or Spain, but fight fans all know me, and they all know Matchroom. So when Matchroom and Eddie Hearn announced we're bringing boxing to Italy, there's huge excitement around fight fans. They haven't even found out who's fighting yet, but it's about building that brand on a global brand on
with
a
your social
localised
media.
level. Yeah.
Because your dad always said to me, and obviously I've known your dad 30 years, and he's an extraordinary person. I mean, if you've got the gift of the gab, which you do have, he's extraordinary as well. I've heard him speak at dinners with city people, and they go away and think, that guy is extraordinary. When you built that social media, he always said to me, and I remember, so I sat in the cricket club that he's chairman of over in Brentwood, and because he bowls a bit of medium pace, bats about 7 or 8, saves the innings, doesn't he? Loves talking his cricket. He said, I used to have to do 4 or 5 press conferences to sell tickets. Eddie puts a tweet out or an Instagram post out, and boom, it's out there. How did you know at the beginning that you needed to do that?
I mean, luck is important. Right place, right time, timing. I established that social media was going to be the future of
What made you
event
see that,
marketing.
though?
Because I see the way that people are changing their habits. All of a sudden, particularly around that time, people's attention span is diminishing. That's why shorter formats across sports are working better. Treble 20, actually, ironically, cricket, it was the first sport that was forward-thinking enough to develop that format and got a lot of criticism at the time. Probably saved cricket, actually, to where it is now. But just the way people were digesting content, no longer on the TV, on a cabinet. They were doing it via their phone. They were doing it via their tablet, you know, and then obviously the growth of, you know, we grew up in a world of, I don't know, MySpace and Facebook, which emerges into Twitter, and you could see the growth. And also, you know, when my dad talks about social media, he says, I'm jealous, but I'm also happy. He said, I'm jealous because we used to go and put posters under the arches of railway stations to try and get people to come to the show.
There you go.
You can just interact, but you still got to build that following, by the way.
And they were ripped down by the local council
right.
as well, because a lot of it was illegal at the time.
And he said, but the downside is we used to finish a show and go, that was good, and go for a curry. No criticism, no opinion, you know, and that's the downside of social media, because when you're passionate about something, you read it. People say to me all the time, you don't read that, do you? Of course I read it. That's my fan base. That's who I interact with.
Do you read the haters as well?
Yes, but that's the
Does that
customer.
stir you when you read it?
I think you come to realise that the haters are generally people who are a little bit disturbed, or industry people. You know, I do believe that there is...
You're being targeted, do you think?
Yeah, I would probably do the same. You know, if I was... I said to my dad the other day, I said, can you imagine if you were still promoting now and I was your competition? And he looked at me, he went, I'd smash you straight in the face.
But you don't know who they are. It's an invisible enemy.
No, but he said, no, I'm talking about if he was promoting now and I was also a promoter,
oh, right.
not his son. So I was his competition. And I was doing interviews with Coogan going, that Barry Hearn, you know, blood pressure going all over.
He'd do a John Fury on you, basically.
He says, I would smash you straight in the face. He goes, I would not be able to stand you. And that, unfortunately, is the mindset of a lot of the industry globally. You know, you know me better. A lot of people who know me better know that most of it's jovial. I am a competitor. Probably can be a little bit of an arsehole sometimes, but generally I'm a decent bloke. But the others just see this guy who is just everywhere.
People think that you and I don't like each other, but we may not like each other privately. I mean, I've never disliked you. I think you're brilliant at what you do, but we work together in the industry. Yeah, sometimes I question you.
We're also
sometimes
straight,
you question.
you know, like,
and we're straight with each other.
Listen, we don't have a personal relationship.
No, we don't. It's business.
You can always message me. I always return the call. You call me. But
I think you're like that with everyone.
Yeah, I am. I always give my time, and I've always done it. And we talk, you know, we did IFL and Boxing Social and all these people. I never turn down an interview. One, out of respect for people that are actually turning up at my press conferences, you know, offering to give exposure, and also investing their time and money to be there. And two, because I like giving people a leg up, an opportunity. Everyone who goes to a press conference will know I give the same energy to Coogan that I do to Joe's boxing channel that's just launched.
Or Charlie Parsons even.
But look at him go. You know, he's been a product, you know, not blowing our own trumpet, but without me pushing Charlie Parsons, he wouldn't be where he is now. No. It wouldn't help the growth of boxing. And I don't care. I'm not looking for
But he's into it and he gets it and you appreciate him.
I like him.
Exactly.
He's a grafter.
Yeah.
Right?
Same as Coogan was.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But also, and people say, oh, you know, Eddie likes to groom the media and like, no, I get on with some people. They know that they can ask questions. Doesn't mean they have to take liberties. You know, at the end of the day as well, sometimes that's something that will piss me off a little bit is sometimes these people want to grill me. I'm giving them my time, especially the smaller platforms, and they're trying to be a Twitter hero, you know, trying to ask questions, and they'll say, you never ask Hearn this and that. I'm not asking for an easy ride, but at the same time, let's also understand, I'm giving you my time. You can ask me anything within reason, is not a problem, but don't try and be a hero and push me on stuff and like, you know, and me and you know.
Listen, you've called me.
You said some things sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with it, and I'll call you up and I'll say, and sometimes you might say, actually, no, fair enough, or you might go, no, I disagree. I think this and this
I can count on this hand. And last year, you've probably called me 5 times. I chase you a lot. When you call me, it's because I'm not fully in the picture, and you've called me to say, I don't think that's right, by the way. You're not right about that because this is happening. Some of this is on the record, some of this is off the record, and we do have that relationship. And I know how straight you are on these things, and I appreciate it. And people in the public need to know that about you, that you don't operate in an underhand way. No. You're straightforward. We've got 4 more things on this section, if I can remember them all. Cricket. I was on holiday, on a short holiday in Venice the other day, having a wonderful time. I happened to be listening to the cricket because it was the 5th test. It was an extraordinary series. I know you're a big cricket guy. I was as well. Loved playing my cricket. Played club cricket in London until my 40s. I wish you'd carried on longer. You were a great batsman. I think you bowled a bit of medium pace as well. Bit, Dad's the same. You were on Test Match Special. I texted you at the time. You were absolutely brilliant talking about what cricket needs to do. You kind of said to them, you need to revolutionise this stuff to capture the younger audience. And could you ever see yourself getting into cricket as a promoter?
I've actually got a lot of stick about that interview.
No, didn't deserve it.
From Twitter. But like, it was like, I was really honest. And I said, I'm looking out here now. I could name 2 or 3 players out there.
Stokesy, Anderson, Brody.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I loved my cricket.
Yeah.
I'm not a cricket fan anymore. I'm a casual. But
you watch the Ashes.
And then I'm thinking, yeah, of course. But then I'm thinking, you know, when I'm thinking back to when I was engaged in cricket, and it was Robin Smith, Alan Lamb, David
Both
Gower,
them, Gatting,
Pringle. I knew all of them,
Yeah.
right? And I know I was playing more cricket then as well. But the problem we have in all sports is trying to engage that younger generation. Because before you know it, that younger generation who are now 14, 15, 16, 17 will become mid-20s. They'll be your actual core customer who will be going elsewhere onto other things, you know. And I just feel like you have to keep evolving. And the problem is with cricket is I'm not sure it is. I was trying to say you need to build the narrative. The Ashes is one of the greatest fairy tales of cricket, right?
It is.
Tell the story. You know, you had a situation where
it's 170 years old.
Apparently there was an argument between 2 players when they walked off.
Yeah.
I want to know more. the ECB, well, they won't let that player go and do a press conference and talk about that.
Yeah.
Get him in the press conference.
It's the
Get
drama,
them
it's the
both up
theatre,
press
yeah.
conference.
Yeah.
I know a lot of it, people are listening to me on the Test Match Special game. This isn't boxing, but ultimately the Ashes is built on rivalry. You can make that series so much bigger than it is by building
I thought you were
and
spot
telling
on.
the story of the rivalry of the Ashes.
I thought, as a guy that loves his boxing and his cricket, I thought you were absolutely spot on that. DAZN, $1 billion deal with DAZN 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
That, yeah.
How did that come about?
It was a big deal for us because we'd been working in the US market with HBO with Danny Jacobs. He was the first fighter that we signed. We'd done, I think, 3 shows with HBO, but it was apparent to us that they were going to exit the boxing industry. So we needed to look for a new broadcaster, which is very difficult when you've got ESPN with Top Rank and you've got Heyman on Fox. Who are the other players? DAZN, and because of our relationship with DAZN and previously perform across Germany and Italy with darts.
So it came about through the darts.
Yeah, it came about through the Matchroom streaming business.
Right.
Really. You know, my old man, unbelievably, and not the most tech-savvy man in the world, DAZN would previously perform, and they were just a streaming company. They used to stream events into betting shops, right? Well before their time of realising how smart this was. And my dad said, what we're going to do is we're going to take over the local hotel and we're going to just play matches, right? So we're going to get all the best darts players in the world in a room like this, Gareth, set up the cameras and just play darts. No crowd. And he would sell this to perform per match because that would be streamed direct into the betting shops. Or you would do deals with bookmakers to stream that online, but all day. So the bookmakers would pay so much money per game of darts and they'd be playing hundreds of games. Then he started doing snooker and all this kind of stuff. We used to talk about Perform and go, I mean, where are Perform going? This is crazy. Next thing, they float, they sell, everybody there makes a fortune. It effectively becomes DAZN. And all of a sudden, they wanted to make their way into America, into the American sports market. And they, thank God, identified boxing as the route in because
Drama, theatre.
It's cheaper than the huge US.
But people will always watch a fight.
Exactly.
But people will always watch a fight.
And they chose us.
Yeah.
And that was huge for us. And that was the start of our exclusive global relationship with DAZN. Which
Have you met Sir Leonard Blavatnik, who owns it all, who's the second richest man in Britain or whatever?
Yeah. Been to his house for dinner and lunch a couple of times.
Because he's a bit like Al Heyman, he's never there.
Yeah,
I've tried to get interviews.
Yeah,
he's in the background.
But he's out. I mean, he's a hugely successful intellectual genius. Really, you don't build wealth like that without being unbelievably smart. And he identified the future of streaming, you know, along with all these other geniuses at the time. And it's a long haul.
But it's great they've chosen boxing as one of their front runners.
Yeah, and rightfully so. You know, I think boxing doesn't always work, but it's always spoken about. And actually, the PR and the noise, particularly the digital noise you get off boxing. You know, when we was at Sky, they used to say, in terms of Sky Sports News, the website, etc., boxing always number 2 to football. Clear number 2 in terms of discussion, in terms of opinion. And, you know, it's like, and Twitter's an extension of that. The conversations, I mean, away from the rude stuff, like, people are so passionate about boxing.
It's a sport of opinion zone. It always will be. Yeah. You can be right, you can be wrong. You don't have to be right, do you? Final thing on this. You're very combative. I think it's that Essex man in you, that sportsman in you, your life force. You're very driven. You don't back down when someone challenges you. You've challenged the other promoters. You go at Bob Arum. You go at Frank Warren. You'll go at anyone that goes at you. Are there other promoters? Shelley Finkel, you spoke to us about that the other night on a live event at the Indigo at the O2 Arena, that you called Deontay Wilder's manager, Shelley Finkel, Shirley Winkle. You didn't really know him. And you say, looking back, that probably got in the way of negotiations at the time. But those combative rivalries, do they add to the coverage.
and they're
of it all.
part of it. I mean, but the problem is...
Are you playing a game there?
Yeah, it's all the world's a stage. It's Shakespeare. I mean, we are playing a play of boxing. And I can be the hero, I can be the villain, doesn't really matter. It can change.
Is that where the thick skin comes in?
Yeah, I just... I think thick skin and the ability to deal with adversity or have resilience is built around putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, right? This is something that actually fighters need to understand as well in their training. When you go to the depths, right, of despair, of pain, that could be physical, mental, emotional, once you've been there, it's a lot easier to return there. And when you do return there, it's a lot easier to deal with it. So I see too many fighters now. I say to fighters sometimes, when was the last time you trained and you felt like you were going to be sick or die in a session? Do you know what I mean? And a lot of fighters now, I feel like that style of training has actually changed a lot. There's some old school guys, Tony Sims, good example. They'll be on this triangle run or the steps on Leon C, where you see him at 6 o'clock in the morning all bent over. I want to see that. Because when the fight gets tough, and this is the same with life, and this is the same with any problem, when the fight gets tough, the only way you deal with it is through being there before.
You're doing it yourself at the moment. That's why you understand it.
Yeah, but look at the Dillian Whyte situation. People keep saying to me all last week, I had so many texts, I just want to check in on you. Are you okay? And I'm like, it's very nice to do, by the way. We should all do more of that with people. But honestly, not even, don't get me wrong, it was a pain in the arse. But the Conor Benn situation, much worse emotionally. Not say dark times, but pretty rough times. But then as you keep going, it's like you just become stronger and stronger and stronger. Just like going to the gym. Just like doing the steps at Leon C. Just like being in a fight where in the 9th and 10th round, you're asking yourself, I've been here before. They're the ones that can do it. Then when you do it for the first time, it's great, but I've been here before. They're the ones that are tough to beat. And that's the same. So, I think building resilience is just about putting yourself in uncomfortable positions again and again. We'll come to Conor Benn and Dillian Whyte in the third section today. Final one about competitiveness. You and Simon Jordan. It's become a bit of a... I think you're 2-0 up in the 2 sessions at TalkSport. I've rung you even to say, wow, that was unbelievable to watch. Has Simon got an agenda against you, do you think? I don't think... I mean, I've had a lot of people saying he's jealous of me. I don't know if that's necessary.
There's a big swinging dick thing going on with you and him.
Look, I think that the situation is...
You're both very successful. I think...
I said this to Simon. You have to understand. When Simon Jordan was flying, I was around and I was a kid. I was 19, 20, and I used to watch this guy in Port-au-Banús, at Sinatra's, on his boat, swanning around, coming into Leyton Orient boardroom. I found him disgustingly arrogant back then. And I think if he's honest with himself, he would probably say, yeah, I was. But he was a young man, self-made, made a lot of money. Good luck to him. I don't mind that. So I remember him from back then. With everything that's happened in his life with the football club, all that kind of stuff, there probably is part of him that, and I might be that guy that just flicks the switch he's like, not like he reminds me of me, but like, that's why when you're having a conversation... Are
you his anti-hero in a way?
Maybe. Maybe.
And that's what gets under the skin.
But when he says...
He didn't let you get a word in the other...
When we're having a natural conversation, he goes, well, you just got your dad's business. It's like, whoa, where's that one? That's a real sign of weakness, as if to say, it's deeper than that.
You both get personal with each other, though.
Yeah, but I say to him... You've
called him bankrupt and, but he took it into administration or liquidation.
But also... Because
the football club.
The reason I've done that is he questions my integrity in boxing.
Oh, he's done the same to me, and I've had to.
But that's also huge, hypocrisy from him when he talks. In my opinion, when we talk about his integrity with the football club, with the creditors, whatever that may be. And I just don't like the way, I would have done, he would have done exactly the same thing as me in the Conor Benn situation. And he says, absolutely.
Why would he have done the same thing?
Because it's what any aggressive businessman would have done, is let the governing body make the decision, take it out of your hands. You also have a partner in the event who is getting medical advice saying, we are happy for the fight to proceed. It's over. So you give yourself an opportunity for the board to make that decision for you. And ultimately, if the board license the event, it changes the landscape of what it's going to be. Now, people say, yeah, but you did it 3 days out. Only because we never got an answer. We went to the board 7 weeks before, and they made a decision 3 days out. But I keep holding my hands up saying, we made mistakes. Unquestionably. The biggest mistake I made was when they did cancel the show on the Wednesday, and for 24 hours, we were bullish, Calla was bullish, and said, no, we can overturn this in court. We can look at another regulatory body, which we would never do.
No, in that vacuum, I was one of those also, not hammering you, but saying this can't go ahead.
Yeah, no, and you were right. But also, we are, like you said, combative. We felt like, hang on a minute.
You're going to push the boundaries.
We asked this question 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We've all spent £1 million because you've now... What the board should have done, as soon as they received those tests, they should have gone, we're not sanctioning this fight. We have to have a hearing, we have to go through a process, etc. But they didn't, partly because, and Simon says, that's because you were putting pressure on. We never spoke to the board. Of course, Conor Benn was putting pressure on with regards to confidentiality because he wanted his hearing. Once this information leaks, everyone's made their decision. Conor Benn played the situation badly. We probably played the situation badly, and we're still ongoing.
Let's do the Conor Benn thing now then. I'm going to come back to Simon in a minute, but we're 10 months on almost, I think.
12 months on.
Yeah, 10 months on from the October time when the fight was going to be, but a year on from the tests. I mean, I saw Conor on Sunday night. He said he'd never given me an interview again. That's how people speak when they're feeling hurt. I mean, obviously, I'm pro the young man. I am pro. All I've said all along is do the tribunal, clear your name. He spoke to me at length on Sunday night and said, listen, you've got to realise I'm innocent. And I accept someone's plea in that sense. Where are we with it? Is he going to fight soon?
Yeah.
Is there going to be an appeal
I think
from
there
UK?
will be an appeal, yeah. I think
Why are they appealing?
because I think...
Because are we that deep in the hole?
Yeah. I think it's just ego. It's the industry. It's the outsiders forcing the board to appeal.
Outsiders forcing the board?
I believe so. I believe there's a lot of pressure from the industry saying to the board, you must appeal.
What, because of the veracity of a testing system in an inherently dangerous
more
sport?
because it's
That should be the real reason.
Yeah, but it's not
that should be the real reason, shouldn't
look
it?
at Simon Jordan, for example, basically on air, calling out for the board to appeal. These people... They hate it so much that Conor Benn went through the procedure that was asked of him, and they can't even bring themselves to say he's been cleared. And I keep saying this, but he hasn't been cleared. He was suspended. The suspension was lifted. There was no punishment.
Cleared to fight.
Cleared to fight. I mean, but we keep saying, but not cleared. But if he's not cleared, he would have received a ban. And they talk about, but it was a technicality. But he's doing everything that's been asked.
What we need to know, Eddie, is whether these genuinely, that it's made clear for Conor Benn's name, for the board, for yourselves, for everyone out there, that there's a transparency about, has it been accepted, not just through jurisdiction, in my view, that what was in his system is clearly from the consumption of a food product and not a chemical product. I think that's what, once that's happened, it doesn't matter what anybody says out there on social media, in Twitter sphere, if Conor Benn's name is officially cleared in that sense, I think he's free from everything.
The issue is, I mean, firstly, that was the finding of the WBC, ultimately, in with the people who did the test. Secondly, there is an issue that every UCAD test that he took during that process, which I think was 4 or 5, he passed, right? In the 10 weeks out from the fight. So it's them adjudicating over a testing program that they are not familiar with. Right?
This is why we need homogeneity through the whole
100%,
system
I
in the
agree.
world. This is where it needs to change.
but I think-
like it did with Michael Watson and the board,
Yeah.
with anaesthetists on
But I
site.
think
when someone's hurt.
the law is saying is you're adjudicating over a test you didn't do. You didn't collect the sample. You didn't. It wasn't in your laboratory. It was flown to another country. It was, and VADA do a fantastic job. This is a bit like, and we'll go on about the Dillian Whyte situation. How does Dillian Whyte clear his name? VADA are a reporting agency that we employ to add an additional layer of testing. But they write very clearly on the bottom of the report, we are not a disciplinary body, like as if to say, don't come to us for any, so who bans who? And when I look at Dillian, who is not a British Boxing Board of Control licence holder, how do you now clear your name? And that's the problem. We can implement as much additional testing as we want. I mean, one of the positives about the Dillian Whyte situation, and Conor Benn, whatever way you want to look at it, is something was found in his system and it stopped them from fighting. So therefore, particularly with Dillian's situation, a week out from the fight, that's a real positive because we cannot...
Means the
whether it's
system's working in a
intentional or
sense, yeah.
We cannot allow people with performance-enhancing drugs in their system to fight,
Step into a ring. I completely agree. That's all everyone wants.
Sometimes levels are different and it can be proved to have no physical benefit. But in some instances, particularly, that is working. But my bigger concern is no one's really prepared to adjudicate and put a process in place that is clear when you fail a test. No, I mean, there's a huge amount of damages on the line, and I don't blame these people for not really wanting to get involved, but someone's got to. I thought the other day about introducing a testing pool.
I heard about
Matchroom
this, yeah.
fighters, right?
Like the UFC do.
Yeah, but then if they test positive in the testing pool with VADA, what happens then? Do we have a disciplinary process where we decide whether they're banned?
You can't be judge and jury, I think.
Of course not. I don't want to be.
No,
I
you
mean,
mustn't
all of a sudden
be. Yeah,
you
but
put
yeah.
yourself, legally in a horrendous
Because you're not in the sport of boxing. Then you're running your own fight league.
We want, but UFC, I believe, do. I think they have a.
Well, they're
process
running
with
their own
inside.
fight league, aren't they? They call it the
guess.
world champion.
But
It's
what
the
I'm
UFC
saying
world
is
champion.
We need to be able to pass it over to someone.
Yeah.
Like Dillian Whyte's investigation should have already started. As soon as that test comes through, this is the procedure. Bomb, 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 bomb.
Yeah.
You need to come in next week. We need to go through this. You need to build your case.
But you almost did that with the Rivas fight.
Yeah, but
and
that
he was
UK.
exonerated.
Yeah, but that was a UK
But he was
test.
exonerated.
Yes.
And people need to be clear about that. He was exonerated
Cleared.
in that process.
Exactly.
When people are saying,
but
he's
that's-
done
but the
3
UCAD,
tests.
The UCAD system is actually a decent system because the tester and the decider. So ultimately, they'll report the results and they'll act and they'll dish out the punishment. But VADA are just a testing agency who we use, So I don't know what
it's very complex because we're in an inherently dangerous sport where people are fighting each other. Whether the obviously boxing is hit and not be hit, but you're rendering people unconscious, and it's a very dangerous sport. Final one: is Simon Jordan good for boxing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, TalkSport's good for boxing. Like TalkSport's a huge media outlet that are investing a lot of time in talking about the sport. The reason they're doing that is because it gives them great numbers, and it goes back to conversation and digital numbers. Viewing figures, and that doesn't always transcend to the viewing figure, but in terms of conversation, in terms of interaction, in terms of social interaction, particularly digital content, boxing is. And they will tell you, when me and Jordan go at it, it's record numbers.
It's unbelievable.
So really,
I was in here last week. Was it last week you did it? I was in here last week. I was waiting to speak to Robert Smith for the show. He said, I can't talk to you right now. I'm watching Eddie and Simon. And that's in the boardroom at the Boxing Board of Control. Another example of it, I think between rounds, I had to interview you as well because I'd interviewed Conor McGregor for about 40 seconds. Goes out on Talk Sport. He reveals something to the MMA world. Does 750,000 views in a 40-second interview. It's drama. Good to have McGregor there.
Absolutely. Bit of a pain in the backside sometimes.
No, why?
No, he's great. He's just wild. I mean,
he is a very wild
he turns
man.
up. He said, "Let's get in a ring." Next thing he's in the ring. There's a ring walk about to take place. But what a character. Obviously sponsors the shows because he has a couple of great.
Would you
brands
promote
as well.
him in a boxing match?
Of course.
Him and KSI? He was looking for that on Saturday night, wasn't he? Do you think it'll happen?
No.
Why?
Well, he's got Tommy Fury first. I think he gets beat by him. But Conor, I actually watched...
Will you promote Conor McGregor in a boxing match?
He can probably do it on his own. If he asked me to do it, of course, I'd
Who would you put him in against?
You must have thought about like to see Conor McGregor against Jake Paul. But Jake Paul is big. Conor's...
Who wins that?
Conor is much... If you watch back the Floyd Mayweather fight, I actually did the other night, he ain't bad.
No, he's not bad at all.
Don't get me wrong, he was never going to win that
Floyd
fight.
gave him the first 4 rounds. He had a look at him, didn't he?
But he can box.
What did that generate?
Sorry? Oh, huge.
$600 million US. I know.
Yeah.
I've never been at an event that had so much interest.
Huge.
Put a little tweet out about it. It did hundreds of thousands of views straight away.
Conclusion.
Yeah, weirdly. Brilliant stuff. Up next, Eddie and I talk heavyweights. Welcome back to Fight Club on Boxing Social. The one and only Mr. Eddie Hearn is here. Right, heavyweights, Eddie. Who's the best young heavyweight coming up right now?
Young heavyweight?
Yeah. I see you thought I was going to talk about the top 4. Who's the best young heavyweight?
I mean...
Jared Anderson.
I'm not sure
Moses
about Jared
Talma.
Anderson.
He didn't look great against Charles Martin the other day, did he?
You look back... Again, I'm obviously a huge AJ fan, but when Charles Martin was in his prime, which is when AJ boxed him, 31-0 with 29 knockouts, AJ knocked him out inside 2 rounds, right? Charles Martin's a joke, right? Worst heavyweight champion of all time. Now all of a sudden he's had about 4 defeats and he's a really dangerous heavyweight. Jared Anderson fights him in his 16th, 15th, 16th, same as AJ, and struggles.
He had moments of struggle, definitely.
I know. So, but anyway, Moses Talma.
We don't know yet.
But still, from what I hear, great talent.
Johnny Fisher?
Yeah, Johnny. I put him in there after the other night. I mean, he actually reminded me, with the whole debate about the reckless AJ, Johnny reminded me of AJ in that first round, which was see just a tiny opening and then jump all over him. And I like the way he actually took his time in the second and third, because he started thinking to himself, I can't fight with that ferocity. So, Fabio Wardley, David Adelaide, Fraser Clark. I mean, are these guys... My only concern is how many do we see who you look at and go, you could rule the world. That's actually an interesting point.
It's a hard pick at the moment.
The younger generation, because I'm not sure, how you can say that any of them are showing signs to be a Usyk or a Fury or an AJ or these kind of guys. But
so therefore, will you be watching the heavyweights and the super heavyweights in Paris next year and thinking,
of course. I mean,
there's the guy
already? I mean, you look at the likes of Delicious Ori.
Yeah.
In the GB team, looks like a great
Jalalov.
talent. Yeah, good fighter, very, very good fighter. But again, it's like, when you look at fighters like Jalavov, Uzbekistan, I think he's
late 20s already.
Sure,
I think
he speaks English. If he does, he's extremely limited.
I think he's late 20s already.
But
as well,
just tough sell.
Yeah,
tough sell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay in boxing. Everybody knows him, Olympic champ. But outside, that's why I think Jared Anderson is going to be an asset, at least, to American boxing and ESPN, because I think he looks good. He's got a good story. I'm just not sure how good he is, in all honesty.
Let's get on to the top 4. Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury. Have you spoken to Anthony Joshua since Saturday night? And what was your take on it all?
Yeah, I spoke to him on Sunday. We always kind of have a long call on the Sunday just to analyse the performance, the event, what might be next. And he was very positive. I said to him, I think AJ is a bit of a brave-faced guy at the same time. I think when you were at the press conference, when you're asking questions like, did the booze get to you, etc., I think it's absolutely impossible for them not to get to you. Like, I mean, And I thought they were very harsh after
Very
2 or 3
harsh,
rounds.
very harsh.
But that's the narrative that's been built is AJ's not exciting as he used to be. So those boos come 3 or 4 rounds earlier than they might do normally or at all.
Do you mind if he becomes a new Vladimir Klitschko?
No, I just want him to win. I don't care less now. Listen, he said, I think it was an interview in a change room. He said, I don't see myself having 3 or 4 more years in this sport.
He's probably got 3 or 4 more fights.
Yeah, 2 years maybe,
Yeah.
4 fights, 5.
Yeah.
So at this point, do you really care what people think? I mean, you've cared about it your whole career. You've given everybody everything. You've played the perfect game, the perfect ambassador game to try and be a fantastic spokesman and asset to British boxing. Now, just win. Like, if he boxes like that and beats Deontay Wilder, everyone will be saying how sensible it is. To go in and start trading with Wilder like he used to, you're just making it a pure 50-50.
A lot of people think he should make it a shootout.
But I don't see the point. Why have a shootout when you can outbox him? Now, he's still got to be more active, right? But he will outbox Wilder every day of the week. Every day of the week.
But Wilder will get through with those horrible punches as well.
Maybe, but what if he crosses his feet over and walks onto a right hand and gets knocked spark
There's no
out?
question that Joshua can knock Wilder out.
I'll say one thing, Gareth. I cannot believe how highly people rate Deontay Wilder, having never beaten one elite heavyweight. He has never beaten a top 5 heavyweight. Luis Ortiz is his best win.
Yeah.
Who, with all due respect, is in his 40s. Like,
he was in trouble in that fight as well.
he was getting smashed.
I was there in the Barclays Centre in Brooklyn.
In the second fight, he was 7-0 down in rounds. But he's got the equaliser and he's very dangerous. But he has never beaten an elite heavyweight. Yet he is rated like, look who AJ has beaten. Now, whether you think he's on the decline or whatever, like,
he's only got 2 fighters to fight in the era. Wilder and Fury. He's fought everyone. Yeah.
And he will fight.
We have told him that.
Yeah.
We have told him that.
Yeah. But
and that's all he has to do.
Imagine if he can beat Wilder. I mean, that Fury fight becomes the biggest fight in the history of the sport.
Do you think that does 600, 700 million US dollars then?
I do. And I just feel like...
Should it be in the UK, though, rather than Saudi?
How do you... at the end of the day, all this conversation... And regarding these conversations, I see other promoters spinning the web like of deceit, like, no, we've said it's only in the UK. Like, it's total bollocks. It's like the comparison. That's why Usyk Fury never happened, because Fury outpriced himself in the Middle East, and then they tried to look at the Wembley numbers, and it was like,
that wasn't right for Usyk at that point, I think. That's what I believe.
I think both of them.
Because it was a 70-30 split, wasn't it?
But he would have still taken the fight. But even Fury...
Well, we don't know that.
He would have.
But I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you on that.
Usyk said, I will take 70-30, but when I beat you, I want 50-50 in the rematch. Right?
No, he said he wanted $1 million for the Ukraine cause.
Yeah, okay. But you have to understand, 70-30 is a joke, right? 70-30 is what he got to fight AJ as a mandatory challenger. Now he's a unified world heavyweight champion. He comes to the ring with 3 belts against Fury's 1, and Fury's profile is much bigger. But at that point, at 70-30, when Tyson Fury's really trying his luck, they meet at 60-40 with no rematch calls. The fight's on. If they really wanted that fight, trust me, that fight would be happening.
I think it's the same for all of them, and I think it's because of them. Money, timing and ego. This is my view. I may be wrong, but my view is they're all waiting for that giant pot of gold in the cash,
Gareth,
truckload of cash in Saudi.
The truth is, Fury knows how difficult that fight is.
Oh, I think he wins all day long.
Maybe.
He might be ahead early and might be behind early in the fight.
He also knows how difficult the fight is.
He's not going to fear Oleksandr Usyk,
doesn't matter about
Eddie.
fearing him. Oleksandr Usyk is a genius.
He is a genius. I agree with that.
I know, listen,
but Tyson Fury is 3 stone heavier and 4 inches taller, and he's been in with the big punches. And Usyk doesn't attack you. But it's an amazing chess match.
But then, if it was an easy fight, he would have.
It's not an easy. None of these fights are easy. Joshua and Helenius wasn't easy on Saturday night. Helenius is an old boy, an old dog who knows his way around the ring. He made the wrong tactics against Deontay Wilder. Look, I'm only saying what I feel from the outside, which is...
I know that if you want a fight to happen...
You can make it happen. Yeah.
And
so why didn't you make Wilder and Joshua happen?
Because
Years ago.
One, we never got a contract when we asked for it. Two, there was like this horrific sort of ego from them and me as well.
You've admitted that. You've kind of changed a bit since then.
We offered Deontay Wilder. We went to him from DAZN and offered him $40 million
US
for the fight. Yeah. And ultimately,
twice what he'd ever have earned.
Yeah, Al Heyman, in my opinion, made sure that he didn't take the fight on DAZN. But it was such a long time ago now. But now, the reason this fight's happening now, hopefully, touch wood, is because...
This is Wilder and Joshua.
Is because
in Saudi Arabia, January, February next year.
January, hopefully. Saudi are individually negotiating with both parties. So we're not negotiating with Wilder. So there's no opportunity to fall out. There's no network dispute. There's no nothing. So once Wilder does his deal with Skills Challenge, all they've got to do is get AJ and it's actually a very easy process. So fingers crossed.
So AJ fights Wilder. Say it's an amazing fight and he wins, or he loses. Fury and Usyk, let's say, happens in March next year, which is what they're heading towards. Do we get AJ and Fury late in the year or late summer 2024?
We get it whatever happens, honestly. But obviously the size of the fight changes considerably depending on what happens in the Wilder fight. If AJ beats Deontay Wilder, the Tyson Fury fight is absolutely ginormous. I mean, listen, again, call me deluded. I still got dreams.
Should have happened already, though, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
as well?
Should have. I have still got dreams that AJ beats Wilder, which I actually truly believe he does, and then goes and beats Tyson.
Describe the fight then when you dream it.
It's just, you see the Charles Martin fight, a little bit like that. AJ.
So he's going to throw his hands, yeah?
Yeah, but also timing. You know, I mean, look at what he did.
But he didn't counter at all on Saturday night, which worried me a little bit.
He also had an opponent at 5 days' notice. He was working on Dillian Whyte for 6-7 weeks. Yeah,
he was going to jab his nut off.
Yeah,
that's what that clearly wasn't
over the moon. He felt that his timing was a little bit off, and he said he struggled to land the right. Actually, I'm glad he didn't land the right hand properly on Helenius, because he knocked him out cold with probably 60%.
Yeah, it was a glancing blow when you look back at it. Yeah,
if he would have hit him clean.
But what he did do cleverly in those last 2 rounds was started to shuffle his angles to create the angle.
A lot of the boxing community are saying that. You know, he jabs to the body, he jabs to the chest, he gets his feet in perfect position to throw the right hand. Like, if you know boxing, you are seeing a lot of improvements to Anthony Joshua. Yeah, I still think he needs to be a bit more aggressive.
He's not that gung-ho guy we loved 6 years ago.
You know, but also when you're having a sensible conversation with someone, that it's a bit like, why would I go out and just, and Helenius can whack. All of a sudden, we saw it against Ruiz. Yeah, AJ just thought, right, let's go and end it. Chin in the air, boom, boom, boom. Fight's over. One shot, everything can change. So it's just the smarter AJ, and I know it's not always as exciting, but who cares? Let's just win.
Will you always regret it if we cannot get AJ and Fury in a ring together before the year is over?
Not really, because genuinely our intentions were pure regarding that, and we've tried to make that fight before. Mistakes again, but that was one where we never really believed that the fight was going to happen. But I wouldn't regret it, but it would be great to make.
Brilliant stuff, Eddie. Up next, we're talking what's coming up with Matchroom, Eddie and DAZN. Welcome back to Fight Club here via Boxing Social. I've got the one and only, the man, Eddie Hearn, in the studio with me today. Eddie, you've got a massive schedule coming up. We got this weekend, Yafai against Frank. You've got Wood and Warrington coming up, Sonny and Rodriguez, Catterall and Linares, Cameron and Taylor. That's just probably half of what you've got coming. Those are the kind of British element fights. You seem to have created the last third of the year is very UK and Ireland focused for DAZN and Matchroom. Deliberate move?
Yeah, I think that, some of the criticism has been, you're off promoting shows around the world, don't forget about the UK. And we wanted to make sure we made a couple of flagship fights. Of course, AJ White was supposed to be the catalyst of that, but we got Helenius instead. And Wood Warrington is the kind of fight that is just a necessity to British boxing. You got two-time world champions fighting for the world championship. One from
with a
Nottingham,
massive
one from
following.
Leeds. It's just so natural. And of course, the Cameron Taylor rematch, Catterall Linares. Loads more to be announced. Joe Cordina defending his world title. Sonny Edwards.
Oh, he is going to. Joe Cordina.
Yeah, he will do.
So when's that going to be?
It could be in Monaco on November 4th.
Why Monaco?
Because we are probably putting him in a smaller fight, i.e. a voluntary defence. We want to do an outdoor fight for him in the spring in Cardiff. So that's the focus. But first, get him out there, defend his title. And of course, Conor Benn, hopefully, as well, being added to that schedule.
On that card?
No, not that card.
He would headline, yeah?
Yeah, and that would be probably later in the year, subject to the appeal from the board. And I think that there's just a focus on trying to create... Events work the best when you have good lead-up time and a chance to actually market and promote the event effectively.
Yeah.
Sometimes you announce a fight 6 weeks out. Now we're announcing things like November 25th, Cameron Taylor. We announced it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but you won't be able to get a ticket for that.
No, but that's okay, because we're more concerned, one, with selling out the venue, but also building the viewing figures, building the media interest. And you do that by an effective promotional programme. Multi-city press tour. It's like Sonny Edwards against Bam Rodriguez.
Great fight.
But let's get him in front of each other. Sonny's an unbelievable character. The pressers, he'll be ribbing him, he'll be shouting at Robert Garcia. Next thing you know, you're building towards actually a mega fight.
Could he beat you in a fight?
Who's Sonny Edwards? I suppose so. I mean,
there are times when I thought he really doesn't like you.
Yeah, no, we get on really well. I respect. I think he's hilarious.
But he's given you absolute fucking shtick on social media
years.
Until you were together.
But you know what happened is he did, and I called him. I was at a show in Sheffield, and I sort of didn't stick it on him, but I sort of said, "Mate, what the?" And then, but we had a good little. We got it out of our system, and I ended up signing him.
He's one of those guys with the X factor, isn't he?
Yeah, but also belief.
Yeah.
Some people who believe they can't be beaten are very difficult to beat. Terence Crawford's like that as well. Pure belief in his ability. Like in Sonny's mind, there is absolutely no way Bam Rodriguez can beat him. And that's
Bam Rodriguez is number one in the world for me right now, and Sonny's 2.
Absolutely.
That's why it's a brilliant... It's a pound for pound fight, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Carl Froch.
Yeah.
This is a question from the public, really, and one from me. Getting too big for it. I mean, you and him had an amazing relationship when you were coming up. I mean, his victories in Nottingham, some of the stuff he did under you was extraordinary. The 80,000 at Wembley against George Groves, which really spawned that big stadium approach in the UK. Who'd have believed it? Is he getting too big for his boots,
No, I mean, he still likes to keep relevant, which is important, in your post-career. If you want to get opportunities and work and stuff like that. He's very passionate. He's quite outspoken.
He's very outspoken.
He's an interesting character. I mean, he's a bit of a conspiracy theorist, a little bit of a... I'm not sure if he's actual flat earther, but on the way. But the thing is with Carl is, like, what made him the fighter that he was that he's got a big chip on his shoulder. And that is what made him so difficult to beat, because he's one stubborn individual. And once he gets something in his mind, it's very difficult to overturn that. And we've got the kind of relationship, like I think the question was asked on Sunday, like, you've got close relationship, are these guys your friends? And it's like, they're probably more than friends, because although socially you won't see me out really with Carl or Darren or Tony Bell.
Anyone.
Not really. Yeah. Like, but I'm work.
Work is life.
His kids and his family, and it's like. Yeah. But ultimately, we shared just the most unbelievable times together.
Well, you nearly got him disqualified.
Yeah.
But who was it against?
Loosen Buta.
Because you jumped in the ring before it was actually
the ref crossed his hands like that. As soon as he goes like that, the fight's over. I'm in the ring picking him up. Rob McCracken's telling me to get out. But the one thing about Carl is he was never supposed to be a superstar when we got hold of him. And he became one, you know, with our help, but because he was just a fierce competitor. And he doesn't mind putting people's noses out of joint, you know, and saying things that are going to rub people up the wrong way. He couldn't care less, but he's always going to speak his mind.
Final one on this section. I think it's. I've had the privilege of spending time around Saul Canelo Alvarez de Jalisco, Guadalajara, Mexico. 6 of his last 8 fights, I think you promoted.
6 out of 7. I think.
6 of the last 7. Was it great working with him? What are the things that surprised you about Canelo?
How easy he was to work with, how relaxed he was, how confident he was in himself, how chilled he was, how competitive he is. And
yet he doesn't ever do the frotch thing. He doesn't ever slag people off. I think the most he's done is to tell Demetrius Andrade to fuck off out of the press conference. And he did do that in English.
But he does, honestly, he couldn't care less what people think.
Yeah.
Like,
he loves the sport, doesn't he?
And he doesn't care about saying anything that's going to upset the media or upset anyone. If it's on his mind, he will just say it. But also, cool guy.
Funniest thing behind the scenes? Because you will have spent a lot of time with him.
Probably the Billy Joe Saunders fight where, you know, we had a certain contract for the ring size and Billy Joe wanted a bigger ring and threatened to walk from the fight. And I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus, Billy Joe's going to get on the plane here. He wants a 24 by 24 foot ring inside the ring.
And it was 20 by 20, was it?
No, 24 by 24.
But what was it at the
20 by 20, contractually.
Yeah.
And you can't get one. We've got to drive one from Florida. It's going to cost 30 grand to get the ring up. And Sal's never going to have that. Billy Joe's a mover. It's a massive advantage for him. And it got to the stage of like, I think Thursday. And we were at stalemate. And I thought, I'm going to have to go and talk to him.
70,000 coming.
And I was like, I sat down and I went, we've got a problem. And he goes, what? I said, Billy Joe wants a 24 by 24 foot ring. And he's saying he won't fight unless he's got one. And he said, no problem. I went, really? He went, it doesn't matter. I said, yeah, but obviously he moves a lot. And he went, doesn't matter. I just thought, wow. I was expecting him to go mental, you know. So very cool, very, very sure of himself. Probably approaching the back end. Had a huge amount, you know. And when you look back, the last 3, Bivol obviously got comfortably beaten there.
Weight divisions for a reason.
Gennady Golovkin fight, didn't do too much in that fight. Won comfortably, but neither of them actually did
He
a lot
knew he had the beating of him.
John Ryder, you know, did well.
Knew he had the
back
beating
end.
of him. John was amazing.
But we're going to see
Love
a lot
John.
of this Charlo. I mean, he should beat Charlo comfortably because of the size, but it will give us a good indication of where he's at.
Have you had a chance, because this is something I'd love to do with Canelo, speaking Spanish, did you visit him at home ever?
Yeah, I went to his house in Guadalajara. I mean, we finished the show.
Is he a proper gangster?
Mate,
is he a proper gangster?
Finished his show in Guadalajara. He phoned me up. I could tell he'd had a few tequilas. He said, come over. We had the best night I've ever had in my life.
All the brothers there, the mum.
Horses.
Yeah,
we had
Maria,
the
his mum. Yeah, really.
He was bareback riding his big Shire horse, doing dances on it. The tequila was getting poured in the throat. We were doing karaoke. I mean, he is brilliant on a night out. Brilliant. That was one of the great nights.
There's only one Eddie Hearn. Don't miss our questions for him next. Welcome back to Fight Club here on Boxing Social. I'm here in the studio with the one and only, the great. Will he be OBE like his father one day, Barry Hearn?
Got to go one better. Sir.
Sir? Eddie Hearn, who lives like a lord. Look, we've got some questions for you to finish off today, Eddie. Seb Parkinson, who's the head of sport video at Reach PLC, asks, given the defeat to Chantel Cameron and rematch, which is expected to end the same way by lots of punters, Katie has managed to change a lot of those things in her career. Will Taylor rematch Serrano still?
I mean, she is just obsessed with trying to beat Chantel Cameron at the moment. It's the only thing on her mind. I think you're right. Chantel Cameron's the favourite going into that fight, given the last fight. And I think Chantel's confidence will grow in the fight. You know, she's the A side this time. We know it's in Dublin.
It's also the weight division above.
Yeah, but it's Katie,
which is foolish.
But Katie wanted that because she believes she can beat her
and become a two-weight world undisputed.
Yeah, but just, it's more about it's more than undisputed now. It's about revenge. You know, and I think if she was to lose, the Serrano fight is there, but
at lightweight, yeah,
yeah, but still at the same time, you know, could be the manner of the defeat. I mean, you know, she will not like me speaking like this, and you know, it's quite interesting. I had a conversation with Chantel Cameron the other day. You know, she feels that she's not getting the credit as the A side, and she's got a point. You know, but Katie's a huge name, a huge star, and you know, I think Chantel very
the biggest star in boxing, women's boxing, no doubt.
Chantel is very confident going into that fight.
October Red, who we both know, a lovely woman, does great work for boxing. Watch her YouTube videos. I've got 4 from her. We'll whip through them very quickly because she said she can concentrate on Galalia Fire this week, then in Birmingham rather than chasing you around. Is Jai Apataya signed to Matchroom as a co-promoter or not?
Yes, co-promoter with Tasman Fighters. So we actually had some fun and games on it this morning. Because I saw Boxer's interview yesterday, Ben Shalom, where he said, you know, we pulled out the purse bid on the day.
This is with Riak Paul now, yeah?
Because we had another World Championship opportunity.
Must be Bill Smith
and
then.
they were messing. No, it's just rubbish. They emailed Mick Francis from Tasman Fighters today saying, don't tell Eddie Hearn we're contacting you. But would you like to make the Richard Riakporhe fight on September 30th? This is after pulling out of the purse bids. So it's all absolute rubbish. And, of course, my co-promoter sent it to me immediately, like he wasn't going to. And I just dropped Boxer a line and said, someone must have hacked your email because I saw the interview yesterday and you said you pulled out of that fight because you got another World Championship opportunity. You were telling Porky Pies, weren't you? Because you just didn't want to go to purse bid. They also know that they can't challenge for the title now because they've withdrawn their position of mandatory challenger. So anyway.
So what will happen with Jai now?
He's probably going to fight Bradis.
Over there or
in
here?
Australia or wherever.
Which promoted you and DAZN.
And that's who he's been called to fight right now.
So there you go. There's all your questions answered there. This is a very interesting question. Ask Eddie if he'll be petitioning the WBC to make Wilder and AJ a final eliminator for Fury, which makes sense. Yeah. Number 1 versus number 3 after Ruiz priced himself out. Obviously, Ruiz is number 2.
Good question, but sometimes when you do that, it affects your bargaining position. I'll give you an example. Tyson Fury already agreed to 60-40 with Anthony Joshua. If he becomes mandatory, it's 70-30
that's
with
true.
the WBC. Probably not.
Do you think that'll be a 60-40 fight when it happens, or 50-50?
Yeah, I mean, if he beats Wilder, AJ, I think the fight becomes 50-50. But AJ, Fury as champion, 60-40 at the moment is fair. Don't forget when AJ was champion and Fury wasn't, he said he will only take the fight at 50-50. So, but we're prepared to take 60-40, which has kind of been agreed ultimately anyway.
If you could change one thing about the boxing industry for the benefit of the boxers and the fans, what would it be?
Probably being able to deal directly with the fighters more and not the managers and the advisors sometimes, because we get the blame for an uncompetitive fight where ultimately we don't want to pay for an uncompetitive fight. But the trainers and the the trainers sometimes, but the managers and advisors want the easiest fight for the most amount of money. Common sense. I don't blame them for that. But sometimes I feel like fighters lose an opportunity to progress by not being aggressive enough in their matchmaking. We don't want to put their development at risk, but it's just taking a big enough risk to stay competitive and provide entertainment for the public.
This is a question I get asked a lot in my sphere in the media as well. What would your advice be to someone with a passion for boxing and wants to be involved in the industry?
You know, AJ used to say, and I never used to really understand it, but I really do now, that going through the doors of an amateur boxing club, there's so many things you can do in boxing. Like, it's not just about becoming a fighter. You can become a trainer, strength and conditioner, a sports physiotherapist or boxing physiotherapist, part of the media, work in social media, be a TV presenter, you know, so many different things. So I think that working in boxing, the good news about boxing in the industry, sometimes bad for us, is there's no barriers to entry. Anyone can do it. So, you know, it's just the case.
I mean, there's a lot of chances.
There is. Unbelievable. Especially actually representing fighters.
What I would say is this, and as someone that's been involved for like 32 years going, I can't believe it sometimes. If you've got a passion for it and you get into it and you have a feel for it, you find out in the end whether you belong in it or not. Because there are days when you feel like you're digging a fucking trench. But it's all worth it, because I don't think there's any industry like it. No, it's so creative. Yeah. It's so amazing. The people in it are amazing. At the end of the day, it's fighters first. It's extraordinary what they do. But we're better off in society to have fighting. They're different to us. We're civilians, aren't we? Fighters are different, but we need to celebrate them in our society. We always have. You're an emperor. You're like an emperor of Rome in the Colosseum. Do you realise that?
I'll take that.
Zuckerberg against Musk. Yes. Who wins and why?
Zuckerberg wins.
By submission.
Yeah, but he's a jiu-jitsu guy, isn't he? I mean, and I think Elon Musk is training, but I think he's kind of dug himself a hole, Elon Musk, because he's probably actually looked at it and thought, do you know what? I think I'll get choked out here or whatever it will be.
He will.
So, yeah, so maybe,
even though he's 6 inches taller, 2 stone heavier.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen.
It's like you taking on Dylan Dennis or someone.
I think I might win that fight. I don't know. You never know.
Easy, Eddie. Easy. Don't put yourself in it. Do you believe Frank Warren and Tyson Fury are waiting for Oleksandr Usyk to slip before they take the fight or slide?
No, I just think that they know how difficult the fight is. It's not even Frank Warren. Frank Warren's not involved in Frank Warren does as he's told. Same with me, with AJ.
They're your clients.
Ultimately, they will make the final decision. Fury knows how good Usyk is and wants a certain amount of money to risk his record against Usyk. And if that money's not there, he will not fight him. He's not afraid of him. He just knows how good Usyk is, and he wants a certain amount of money to take that fight. And until he gets it, he won't do it. Will
you watch the new Netflix series that starts next Saturday, At Home with the Furies? And would you have wanted to promote him?
I won't be watching, but
you will watch it. You're bound
to. I've seen some of the trailers. It looks very entertaining. It's just not. I don't watch hardly any TV.
That's good.
Outside of live sport, anyway. But look, I have a huge amount of respect for Tyson Fury. We nearly signed him once, but I thought he'd never come back.
He was 27 stone at the time.
So what he's
done
is incredible. I think he's a tremendous fighter. I think he's hilarious. I think he's got a great charisma. I think he's unbelievably intelligent when it comes to boxing. You know, people don't realise. I sat with him once and he started going through my stable, you know, down to English level champions.
Down to Felix Cash.
Yeah. So. No, look, we don't always.
Felix is beyond that, by the way. I want to point out.
We don't always see eye to eye, but every time I've been in his company, he's been a gentleman to me. So you know, I don't always agree with him, and I think he's partial to tell the old porky pie, but aren't we all?
There's a lot of back and forth on social media involving you and John Fury. Do you actually fear him? In a funny way, do you fear him?
I think, again, you get to an age, you probably know this as well, where actually you don't really have any fear, full stop. I mean, how old is he?
John's a year younger than me, so he's 56.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he definitely smashed me everywhere, but there is, could you land one? You know what I mean? And
don't start talking up the fight. But no,
actually,
it's part of boxing. It's part of the circus.
To be honest with you, I've never actually said anything.
I agree with that. No,
derogatory
I know
about
that.
John
I
Fury.
do know that.
And sometimes I watch his interviews and think, like, but again, I think I've met him once, but actually, I know, because I know when I sit down with Tyson Fury, he actually goes, he's all right, actually. And I know that if I sat down with John Fury, he'd say the same. But what they see is they read clickbait and they read one, IFL or Boxing Social quote out of a million quotes actually explaining
and not
why
listen
you said
to the
that,
25
and
minutes
never
of
watch the
interview.
So I get why he'd probably want to chin me.
These are really good. And it was brilliant in lockdown to go to Matchroom HQ, stay in the Holiday Inn, play cricket in the back garden.
That was amazing.
I think I got out first ball. I remember bowling an over at you. You took it seriously. You did that day. I think you smashed me through the covers for a couple of fours. Is there any interest in doing another fight camp at Matchroom HQ?
You wouldn't believe
Matchroom Square Garden.
How often we get messages.
Could you not find an event where it's worth doing, where you could get the Arab sheikhs there?
The beauty of fight camp was when there was no crowd. Do you know what I mean? And it was like
Dillian fought, Katie fought.
It was unbelievable. Harper Jonas.
Such a privilege to be there. 100 people there.
And then when we had crowds, don't get me wrong, it's still great, but it was like, you have to understand, that's my garden.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it was like, but the experience for a fight fan of coming to fight camp was pretty amazing. And I won't rule it out for next summer.
But who could you put there?
I don't know, I think it's like consistently, I think it's difficult now with the level of purses that fighters are making to start doing world title fights. I mean, don't forget we did Lee Wood against Kanzu there. We did other world championship fights as well.
Do you lose money when you did those?
I don't think we lost money.
The world was different, though. We were thinking differently, weren't we?
I mean, and it was hugely successful for Sky. Don't forget that the Whyte Povetkin fight was pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You did a pay-per-view fight from the Garden.
So you didn't lose money?
No. Don't be silly with that. What's that?
Would Canelo beat Froch in their prime at super middleweight? What a good fight that is. What a fight.
Carl's got
They're both going to come at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think prime Froch v Canelo now.
No, prime Froch, prime Canelo. Split draw.
Yeah, so I don't upset either.
Don't upset either of them. They love you too much. Final question, and it's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure to have you here today, and I really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are. And it's nothing to do with boxing. It's about the afterlife.
Okay.
And long may you live. If you were a ghost, who would you haunt?
I guess, I mean, if you're haunting, I think there's two elements to this. We shouldn't look into this too deeply.
No.
But one is the element of actually being able to watch someone's life unfold. Like if someone says to you, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? What would yours be?
Mine would probably be invisibility.
Same.
Yeah,
I think that's
because I'd like to walk around and
kind of being the ghost is a similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're haunting someone, it needs to be someone that you really don't like. And the problem is, honestly, the way I am these days, I genuinely and I'm not just saying this to try and set, but I don't have any, and I couldn't tell you one person
that you hate that much. Yeah,
I can't stand them.
Can I say why?
Why?
Because you feel blessed.
Yeah, but I think you just become comfortable in yourself. Years ago, I can't stand him. Oh, I wish he would,
talk.
Yeah, but now, genuinely, even my greatest, the people that slag me off all day, even them, I just genuinely would like to see people. Life's too short. We're all.
It is too short.
But we're all going to end up in that chair, aren't we? Hopefully at 80 or whatever, looking back, going, can't believe you took that so seriously, because actually nothing really matters other than being happy and enjoying yourself. And I see so many people that are frustrated and angry, and life's hard, life's stressful, but don't take it too seriously. And the last thing to say in this interview is, on that note, is the interpretation of success. So I can't tell you who I'd actually haunt, because I don't want to haunt anyone, but that interpretation of success, which when you were a little bit younger, and I was very much like this, if you didn't make a load of money, have a big house, have cars or whatever it's going to be, you are not successful. And anyone that's not, I would look at someone that maybe wasn't overly focused on a career and had a small house and think, well, they're not successful, are they? But actually, success is an individual interpretation of how you're feeling and where you are in life. And I think we live in a world now where social media paints a picture of success, but actually, if you actually look at those people, probably 99% of them aren't even happy. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you feel like you actually haven't achieved what what the world is telling you, don't necessarily overthink it like that, because I think, and even there's a lot of people who have success that aren't happy and don't feel like they have achieved. And I used to be a little bit like this, like always pushing for something more. And AJ said it the other night, I just realised, like, look at Terence Crawford, 2-division undisputed champion. Oh, he's got to step up and fight Canelo. It's like, it's always something. And when I do my podcast, I speak to some incredibly successful and driven athletes. The one thing,
and people and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, but the one thing that always stands out is it's never enough. Do you know what I mean? Frank Lampard, I won the Champions League, lifted the trophy, and just thought, there's got to be what's next? Mo Farah won the 10,000 and the 5,000 Olympics. Oh, I need to go and win that. The most amazing one I spoke to was the swimmer, Adam Peaty. I mean, he's now suffered with depression, and I could almost see it when I was interviewing him.
A vulnerability.
The drive of, the pressure of, he had a newborn son. He was like, I'd come home, I'd say to my wife, get him away from me. I'd have to go in my room. I need my rehabilitation now. Nothing's going to get in my way. And I'm like, Mark Cavendish, who went through his the same thing.
The cyclist.
Where just things can get on top of you quickly when you're putting too much pressure on yourself. I might never forget, he said to me, I would open a drawer and I needed a spoon. He said, and the final day I knew I needed help was there was no spoon. And I was like, why is there no spoon? And he was like, and his wife was like, Mark, like what? So just relax. Don't work hard, find a passion for something, but also understand that even people, I look at AJ sometimes, I don't think his life's overly enjoyable sometimes. He lives in a bubble, he can't go anywhere. Boxing is absolutely like the pure focus. So when you think you don't have a lot, you may have everything, but you just got to find it.
You're very deep to finish like that. I hope you're happy when you're alone with yourself, when you've got family and friends and success and happiness in your life and health, which you're working towards. Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit with you and talk boxing and about you today. Thank you very much, Lord Eddie Hearn.
Cheers.
You've been watching Fight Club here with me, Gareth A. Davies. A brilliant hour with Eddie Hearn today. Don't miss the next show.